Yeah, no, you're not wrong. Like, the UK attempted to launch their first rocket.
No, we didn't. Things just like clash with each other, like on the screen. There's like a layering of like stuff that looks weird, and it sort of it just feels off. That's the only way you can really describe it. Like, it's not like the worst thing, but you just look at it and it just feels a bit like icky, a bit a bit wrong.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree.
Not only with the 4090 blowing up in people's faces, and the silly prices, but them just completely getting rid of the 12 gig 4080. Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Clip It podcast episode number. Today is a new year, a new episode, a good one at that. And it's we've been away for way too long, mainly because of my laziness. But I have been busy. I have got valid excuses for why I've been gone for so long. But no, we're back, and what can I say? Sorry. So yeah, no, I'm glad we're back. It's going to be a good year, I feel, at least for me. I genuinely do have high hopes for this year when it comes to my personal life and my social life. No, not my social life, my online life. My social life is going to go downhill, but I feel like it's going to be a good year for everything we do. But yeah, we're joined by the absolutely amazing Agent Oink. Okay. And the ever so amazing Delicious.
Hello.
How are you two doing?
Yeah, I'm alright, I suppose.
Good.
Yeah, new year, new. It's same me. I've not changed. I've not gone anywhere. Yeah, I hate to break it to you.
I genuinely thought you were going to commit to just using soundboard effects for the whole podcast.
God, please.
Trying to recreate sentences from the like 50 clips I've got.
Oh, that'll be.
Can we record one in April, like early April? I'm thinking we could get away with that.
Yeah. I don't know what for, but we could try. No, that'd be good. It has. When was the last time we did one? I was going to look this up, but I forgot to.
You didn't even know what episode number.
No,
is,
I don't even. I know it's 40 something. So there you go. At least I got one digit right. But I can't remember when the last time we did one was. I know I had a couple planned with other people, but they just fell through, unfortunately.
The people, they fell through the ice. It was
last time we did one was 3 months ago.
very funny to watch.
Weirdly coincidental. In fact, almost every guest that's been lined up for this podcast in the past 6 months has suddenly come to an uncircumstantial death.
I've also just realised, the last time we did one was, I think, when I did the whole big rebrand with the official logo. So who knows if that's coincidence or not? God knows. Yeah, the last one we did 3 months ago. We're on episode 46.
Isn't uncircumstantial like a word that they genuinely use in that sort of context? They commonly, like almost explicitly, just in the case of people coming to like deaths like that.
I'll take your word for it.
I don't know.
I mean, they might do.
My hair is off today.
I might just be making this up by the looks of what I'm googling. So.
Oh.
I don't know. I am dyslexic as shit, so I don't do any English. But today's episode, we're going to talk about the new year, what we like to see, some personal goals if we have any, and what we think might happen. I'm going to talk a little bit about the past year, what we may have been up to, what may have happened. Who knows? I don't know what happened last year, and I wanted to end this episode on a note of where we think this will be, and the whole world will be in exactly a year's time, which would be the 15th of January 2024. We could look back on this podcast. My plan, and it's a long plan, is potentially next year we could look back on this podcast and comment on those, and then say what would happen the following year and all that. I could have done this last year and the year prior, but I forgot
Mm.
and only just
No,
came up with
because
this
if you
idea.
did that, you'd be reminding us that we've been doing this for that long, and that would
That's
be awful.
true. Yeah, that is very true. So yeah, we'll start with talking about this year in general, 2023. What we'd like to see, if we've got any personal goals, and yeah, is anybody want to start, or shall I?
We're fucking starting with that. All right.
Yeah.
You go first.
Okay. Okay, yeah, no, that's fair. 2023, as mentioned at the start, I think it's going to be a good year. My personal goals, or not even my goals in general, because I have a couple personal that I don't want to mention, but a couple personal goals would be to travel a bit more. That's something I would like to do, is be able to actually go places and see places. In particular, I would like to go Scandinavia, but I don't know if that's possible. It would be a nice goal to go to somewhere in Scandinavia. That would be a lovely place to visit. It's always someone I've had high hopes for, and I've always spoken about highly. I've also another personal goal would be to actually like start. This is a big one for me, but it's the one I'm going to work hard towards this year. Is start my self-employment journey. Potentially trying to start being self-employed this year. If I could hit that, then that's basically the biggest goal of the last 5 years that I can hit and actually maintain and achieve. That's one of my biggest ones, and it's something I'm going to work hard towards. Mainly editing. Some of you may know I edit now for content creators, or a content creator. Might move on to more soon, we'll see. Which has been a hell of a journey. That happened November last year, so it's not been too long. But like, if I could move forward and make that an actual goal, that would be pretty nice. And move that forward and make that an actual something that comes to fruition, that'd be absolutely poggers. Can you say that anymore? And
Yeah.
so yeah, those are two goals of mine. One's kind of like, yeah, one's just sort of, if we don't get to travel, look, if I could do it any time, I can always expand that. But getting self-employed this year is my biggest one that I want to try and push forward to actually happening and making come true. For the channel-wise goals, I would like to hit 500 followers on Twitch. It's a very small number. I think I'm only 50 away, but it's a nice little goal to hit. And Twitch, and YouTube, probably 300. I think that's about 60 away there. Small goals. I'm just going to work more on my self-employment more than my socials at the moment, and actually try and keep this podcast consistent. At least once a month is my goal. I think that's a nice aim to hit, because 3 months break is too long. Is way too long.
Yeah.
So yeah. What about yourself?
Oh, you sod.
You spoke next, so you're obviously going to be speaking next. That made sense.
God damn, what do I want to do in this new year? Wouldn't mind a new job.
Fair.
Really going to aim for that one. It's been too long, I've held myself back. So I'll try and work on that.
You know your self-value.
Yeah, exactly. It's not minimum wage. It's a little bit above.
Yeah.
Not hugely. Let's not go crazy. I'm not like a £15 an hour worker, but more than minimum.
I think you could hit that.
I'll back you up and say you're absolutely valid for £15
Yeah.
an hour, like 1,000%. I think every worker in this country is valid for that, but we don't need to go.
Damn,
there. Let's
I
continue.
felt so special for a minute. Anyway.
And then yeah.
Yeah, but it was like, oh, everyone does. All right.
Oh,
Bastard.
okay. Like,
Now this is my goals. You can't interrupt me. You just have
True,
to be a
go on.
bastard and deal with it. I would also like to work on my mental health a bit, but yeah, I really have no clue how that's gonna go. Hopefully, well. It's gonna suck if it doesn't. Alfie, your turn.
Damn. Okay. Yeah, I know. Like, the key thing I'd say is I'm not a particularly like. I wouldn't want to say I'm not goal oriented, but I don't particularly sort of like categorizing my goals into years in the sort of traditional New Year'sy way. Like, it just doesn't super suit sort of me mentally. But like, I wanna sort of similar to what you were saying, Charles. Try and find an avenue for some sort of self-employment or something I can do more on my own terms. because I think that would help me with a lot, like without obviously like over explaining my actual life. Like, I don't get on overly well in my current sort of environment with work and money, so like having more freedom to do it in a way that is more suited to my personality, mental wise and shit would be nice,
Mm.
probably.
Mm.
But also what you were saying about traveling and stuff. Like, not necessarily, like, I don't have a specific goal to go to any sort of certain countries, but traveling with you guys and with the rest of our friends and stuff is something we've been talking about for a while. And as we all get less time to spend general time together, I want to try and like, I really want to get times where like we go off somewhere as a group of friends and just have like a holiday together, stuff like that. That'd be a really like good thing that I want to achieve.
That's
Um,
decent.
Other than that, like, I'm not sure there's anything major. I've got the personal goals with HRT and shit like that, but those are very complicated. So I don't know.
Mm.
Like, it's life, family, money, etc. For anyone that will know, you'll know. It sucks. But yeah, so like nothing major. I don't have like super explicit goals. I want to work on stuff with Clip It and some of the shit you and me have talked about, Charles, and get that rolling as we've been saying for like a year, but we'll get there. But nothing like super sort of specific as such.
That's decent. What's Clip It?
I don't know.
Okay. Look, I think this is a very feasible year for all of us. It seems like we all want new jobs. That's fair. Fair. I think that's fair to say. And
Yeah.
if that could be, if those goals can be met, I think that's going to be a nice overall, a good year. I think. The thing with self-employment is it can be a slow and tedious journey, but it's one of those ones that can be quite beneficial. The thing is, it's a stressful thing no matter what you do, I guess, because you don't have that sort of back end of a company to rely on for the shitty stuff. But anyway, that's for another podcast. Those are some good goals. I genuinely think most of those can be met. I think Phelan can start being paid £15 an hour.
Hell yeah.
Maybe 16. I think that should be your goal.
Whew.
And Alfie, I think you could easily become you have the skills. You have the ability to become self-employed in many different genres, sectors. It's just how the year goes. I think we'll see. It'll be an interesting look back on, especially next year, and seeing where we are and what we got up to in the year. And talking about what gets up into the year, is there anything you guys would like to see happen this year? Anything in the tech world, in science, in space, or in general? Anything you would like to see?
Bloody hell! All right, well.
I want to see a supernova.
That could be as vague as any game releases, any film, TV, to the next big, I don't know, insert name here, rocket launch.
I mean, yeah, I guess rockets going up are always cool.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. Like the UK attempted to launch their first rocket.
No, we didn't. Like, can we? Right.
Oh god.
Tangent. Virgin Orbit tangent. The first UK rocket launch from a spaceport that is borderline not a spaceport, and it's just kind of a shed. All the staff there are awesome, and the people that like are working on it are cool. Like, don't get me wrong, but the actual facilities that have been built, the money that's been invested, not particularly impressive. Right? Using a US launch system developed by a US headquartered and operated company. The only link to Britain it has is that the CEO is British. That's it. And like it's like Britain and Europe. Like I know there's a lot of people that are very patriotic to Britain. I'm not particularly patriotic to Britain, so I understand why there's plenty of people that want a British space agency to really push a British launch system and stuff. I'm more just general in Europe. I think that like Europe and the European Space Agency do some pretty cool things, but I do think that a lot of countries in Europe could benefit from developing their own launch systems, right? Like, how cool would it be to see like a new, like, Czech launch system, right? That's entirely developed in house in that country. That'd be cool. Cool shit like that would be awesome. So that's what I want to see. And I don't like calling Virgin Orbit's launch British because it's got fucking nothing to do with us. Just started here.
I don't know. I think that's enough. It was here.
But it's like when the UK Ministry of Defence stick a satellite on an Ariane rocket, or they stick it on a SpaceX rocket. Like it's it's literally the same level of link. May as well call that a British launch. Elon Musk, or SpaceX launching from Boca Chica. Oh, wow, that's the biggest South African launch of the century. Let's go. Like it's nothing to do with them.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm like, nah, fuck it.
but like
Came from us.
who came up with the idea to make that rocket?
Founder of Virgin Orbit.
Okay, so I would say it's a British rocket.
Who is the founder of Virgin Orbit? British?
I don't know. Oh, sorry. I genuinely thought that would have been Richard Branson. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, I think it technically was Richard Branson, but like I don't think he did it like it was Richard Branson in the way that Richard Branson did with every single one of his companies, where he was rich, like very, very rich, and went, space is cool, I'm gonna make a company, and then employed someone that was actually passionate about space to head the company and lead it. And like that's the person that was the real founder. Like obviously on paper, Branson's the founder, right? But like I don't know that's exactly like how
So
it
what-
works.
So, how would you?
Would you
I'm trying
want
to
to
think how-
see
Go
a
on.
rocket launched made by British hands in
For
Britain?
me to call it the first proper British launch, I'd want to
Mm.
see proper facilities, right? Whereas right now we have some launch capability in terms of our facilities and infrastructure, especially for cheaper launch systems like Virgin Orbit and light launch systems, and not even to Earth orbit and shit like that. We can do some small stuff.
Damn right we can.
What I want to see is us develop an actual proper launch system, like a proper launch platform. Like NASA, for example,
I
has
think-
huge scale, multiple across the country, across the world, launch platforms. Roscosmos
Damn their
has
budget.
major, huge launch platforms and launch facilities and major rocket developments and engine developments and shit like that, right? I think that I'm not like overly bothered about it being like British made as like entirely. Like I don't expect every piece of it to be British made. Like fuck it, if it uses an engine that's one of the Russian designs or whatever, like some of those are fairly decent, whatever. Like it doesn't matter. The key more thing is more just that like it's like even just built in Europe. Like the fucking Virgin Orbit Launcher 1 is just built in America and they just ship it over it. Like, it's like there's fucking nothing British about it. Nothing European about it, even. Like, it's just
So-
not at all involved in us. It's
But
just
doesn't
launched
it-
from here. It's the same way that, NASA launch shit from Mongolia sometimes. Very rarely. More contract to do that, but.
Drunks, Are we still working on Skylon? Does anyone know if that's still in development?
I don't
I have
know.
no idea.
Because my
hope
basic
so.
understanding
I
is
thought we pretty much dropped everything.
No, don't say that.
my basic understanding is the only place we can launch rockets in the traditional way is up in Scotland. But I could be completely wrong
Yeah,
on that, just
we are-
because
we
of
are-
launch
Like,
restrictions.
Not. It depends on what you mean the traditional way. Like you would technically, in theory, you could kind of launch in most places, but it obviously limits what orbits you can achieve with that with like current
Yeah.
technology
Yeah,
and
Scotland's
and being
shit.
cost effective. Scotland's a pretty decent. There is like an attempt at
far
making a launch platform up there. But the problem with Scotland mostly is weather. It's not a particularly
Yeah.
stable place for weather. And that's a problem for a lot of Europe as well. America has a lot more less problems for weather.
Just
in
make
that
more
regards.
robust rockets.
Reburst.
Robust?
I hope they don't reburst.
Oh no, but I also meant it's more like if they launched more southern in the country, you would have issues of rocket debris going over lands of land masses in Europe. Scotland being fairly far north, you're not gonna have to worry too much. Norway being an issue, I guess, but I don't know how far.
Goddamn Norway.
We don't have to worry about that. It's mostly just uninhabited land.
It's so far north. Honestly, I say we just clear out the 3 people living in the Isles of Scilly, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's no point to it anymore. Let's just have like a little remote rocket island over there.
Or we could just do China and say fuck it and just land launch over land.
True.
Yeah.
What's
Yes,
the
they
worst
get
that can
away with
happen?
it. Why
Yeah.
can't we? Yeah.
You know,
We
we're
launch
only
planes over land, you know.
yeah.
Do you know who is cool in space? Can we give a shout out? Small
Well,
little shout out
technically
here.
everybody, because space is
Indian
quite cold.
Space Agency. Indian Space Agency are awesome. They're doing great shit, and some of their launches are really cool, and some of their technologies are really cool. They are genuinely one of the coolest up and comers in like space, like
Aren't they one of the
countrywide.
countries that blew up
space.
a satellite though?
Oh, well, dude, everyone's
Didn't
done
they
that at some
crash
point.
something into the moon?
I'm trying to get quite a few people have before space. Oh, probably.
Well, I'm trying to think.
It's been ages
who-
since I heard
who-
of them. Like,
yeah.
now you say that.
I was gonna say, who recently just tried landing a probe on the moon, or not a probe, like a rover on the
No, it
moon?
wasn't
Was it the Indian Space Agency? Because
The Chinese were going to do
It was
it,
the
but I don't
lunar
know.
lander that crashed, apparently.
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
we
dear.
don't actually know exactly. I don't think, because they just lost track of it and we just assumed it crashed into it, I guess.
Yeah, the Vikram Indian lunar lander just
That was it.
smashed into the moon, and then NASA drove over there and were like, "Lol."
Drive
Basically what
by,
the article says.
Yeah, I rolled back and forth on it. It's like the equivalent of a lunar tea bag.
tried making it. Christ. That's. I was gonna say something, but it's gonna make me sound stupid. So never mind.
Oh, that was fucking
Worrying.
years ago.
I was gonna say I genuinely I didn't know NASA had rovers on the moon because I didn't think they needed or cared about it.
Well,
I mean, don't need as
Yeah.
such. No.
do we need a rover on Mars?
We don't need as many as we have on there. I would say at least like
We
a
need
couple.
more. We need more helicopters up there.
Yes. Yes, helicopter's good idea. Need some planes on there. Take a drone. Honestly.
Yes.
There you go. That's
Yeah,
something to look
KSP's
forward
taught
to
me
soon.
Yeah, no,
anything,
it's
just
right, unless
a little-
like I've missed something. Like there isn't currently like a NASA lunar rover on the moon, but they have a lot of satellites around the moon. Well, like not
Yes.
a lot, but a couple.
Enough.
China's got a rover on the moon. I know that for sure.
I know they've got one on Mars.
I think Russia has one embedded somewhere.
You know,
Yeah,
Russia's got crazy coverage of Venus, guys. Let's praise them on that.
No, a KSP2 actually. That'd be. I'm interested to see how that game is.
This tangent's getting longer.
Yeah.
This tangent is really
But no,
going.
that's something we can look forward to this year. You're right, Charles. It loops around.
Yeah.
Yeah, well done.
What? Oh, what KSP2?
Yeah, keep
Yeah,
going.
I do hope that goes well. That comes out soonish in early access, doesn't it? It's like March.
I
Feb?
forgot they were doing. Stop reminding me they're doing a stupid early access thing. I got it for KSP 1. I'm kind of still mad that they're doing it for 2.
Okay.
I don't want to wait like 5 years. Not that I
Yeah.
rarely did, like out of sandbox, to be fair, but not that I want to wait 5 years for non-sandbox and another 3 years for mods. I mean, another year for like another level of time warp or something. Like, just give me the game.
But what they are showing us is looking
up
really
to
good.
standard.
So
This sort of.
I think that what you're forgetting, Phelan, is that what's probably going to happen with KSP2 is they'll release the game and they'll say like, okay, so we've got rockets sorted, but we don't have space planes or any form of like standard aerospace stuff. And then what will happen is it will change development companies again, and then they'll develop the space
Oh.
planes and stuff, and then it will change development companies, and they'll develop Warp times 4.
Yeah.
And it will just be like each one of the features is done by a different developer.
that's my biggest worry with KSP2, actually. Psycho.
I was just going to say, yeah, so it's not going to launch with, but is planned to have science, colonies, interstellar travel, multiplayer, improved exploration, and resource
Oh, it
gathering.
launches with multiplayer.
Without.
Oh, without. Okay.
So these are all things that are planned, but they're not going to be doing at launch as far as we're aware,
So-
unless that's changed.
So yeah, that's the one thing I'm worried about is its implementation of interplanetary stuff. Is how are they going to do it?
Good, yeah, February 24th. It's sooner than I thought.
Yeah. Okay. I thought so.
One thing that I'd be worried about with KSP2 is that if it launches without all of that stuff, is there going to be any reason to buy it when you could just play
It
KSP1?
has better graphics.
Exactly.
And
Like,
sounds.
but that's it. But
I-
like, if the modding community of KSP1, all of the shit that's in that game, like, surely, like, until it gets more of the features, like,
Yeah, it's like because the whole point of KSP2 is interplanetary, built-in multiplayer and
I-
like civilizations and shit. And they're not bringing the it's like what's the point? Just mod the first one.
I know, like, a lot of the footage we've seen is like pre-alpha and beta and so on, but I have very mixed feelings about how it looks, to be fair. I think it's one of those things
I've
that,
had
like,
similar opinions.
The shaders
once
much
I've
better.
played it enough and watched enough of it, I'll be like, oh, that's normal. KSP1's weird. But at the minute, this just looks so weird to me.
I think the shaders look really good. I think it's the textures really put me off, especially the actual planets. They like at least Kerbin looks really iffy at the moment. I don't know what it is about it, but it just looks off.
Yeah. It looks very. Do you remember in KSP Alpha when everything was very brightly lit,
Yes,
like
yeah.
almost all the time that green sort of color you got?
Yeah.
That's what I'm feeling from it.
I
Well-
think here's my hot take that like looking at the images you posted.
And you know what? It's all,
definitely edit
I just
in.
want to say something quickly.
Oh, no.
This is an extremely hot take. My food's ready, so I'll be 2 seconds. Carry on talking about
You
KSP.
interrupt us for
Terrible,
that.
terrible host. Terrible.
We gotta keep going.
So like
Anyway.
this is something we've talked about on this podcast before and stuff. One thing that I dislike in video games is this push towards realism in graphics, right? And looking at like the second image you sent there of the plane,
Mm.
there's this like very distinct, it's trying to look fairly realistic in terms of the planetary surface and the atmospherics.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that it looks bad. As what it does for that, I think that looks okay. But when you juxtapose that with like Jeb,
Those parts as well. Yeah.
right? Like that it doesn't in the way that original KSP had like even on Kerbin it had that like level of jank to the way it looked that it was like semi-stylized, even though I would say original KSP also kind of was going for realism. Like I think there's a level of like when you have the modern graphics capabilities that we have now, you need to sometimes deliberately take them away from realism to add a bit of style, even if it's still majority realistic, just to make stuff work and fit together a bit better. Because otherwise, yeah, you do get that weird just like things just like clash with each other like on the screen. There's like a layering of like stuff that looks weird and it sort of it just feels off. That's the only way you can really describe it. Like it's not like the worst thing, but you just look at it and it just feels a bit like icky, a bit a bit wrong.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. I also have just noticed. Again, this is going to be great if you don't edit in pictures. But that second image I sent you were talking about, they've not adjusted the control surfaces, so they're all doing pitch there, which is frustrating. I'm assuming they've also not like changed how they work by default by the looks of things, and it is just they're all everything at once until you tell them otherwise. Look at that. you got
Well,
the
obviously
hot
that's how
meat
real
feed.
planes
Like
work, right?
looking at that picture, the ground. I don't know what it is about the ground. Looks off. No, I think I know what it is. That really puts me off this picture.
Looks like
because
Pulsar flights him.
The model looks really good in my opinion, and the shader's really well done. The lighting is quite nice. I think it's the lack of atmosphere, and like there's no fog in the distance. You just see constantly into the far distance. I think that's what really puts me off that picture. It's like the hangar
it's
looks
probably not
really
helping.
nice. Again, the lighting is fantastic. The shaders is really well
I
done.
disagree, see.
So, yeah, something
UI
about
is
that,
shit.
it just looks weird to me.
No, I think that looks quite nice in my opinion. The UI is not the best.
Again, I think it looks nice, but I think looking nice is a very distinct thing from looking good or like making me enjoy the graphics.
I think the problem is there's no stylization to it. They've just gone for realism.
That's what we crazy concept. We discussed this.
Oh,
while you
really?
were gone.
Fair.
Um,
But no, that second one,
not to,
there's
like interrupt.
the
you.
lack of no atmosphere is what really puts me off that one.
Yeah, it's that like it's what I was saying with Phanobase, like to very shortly summarize, is that like when you have this level of realism but don't make any attempt to stylize it, you get this juxtaposition between the parts or the Kerbals themselves and the stuff in the background that just kind of looks weird. Like the rocket in the hangar there looks odd to me. It just feels kind of like you've got these like semi-realistic parts with like weird textures on them, but then there's like no branding on them, which like looks odd. Like the boosters, just a completely solid white, which like it's a small click that just isn't right. Like I've looked at loads of rockets in my life, none of them are like that. That's because they all have shit plastered over the sides, and they got flags, and they got companies, and they got manufacturers. And fuck it, by like the time KSP2 comes out, I mean it's like a month away, but by the time it's probably advertised on the side of them. Like it feels odd.
I might get it just because I'm interested to see what it's like. And
I probably will get it. I think I'll be enjoying it more in like a year or so.
Yeah, like again, going on about that second picture, the biggest problem is they've gone realism, and when you go realism, when there's the slightest thing that you miss that you see in real day life, it completely ruins the image again with the atmosphere. The
It'll
fact
be
there's no
it's- I-
atmosphere, you just realize, oh, it's that uncanny valley, you know, and you instantly notice it. It puts you off. But I'm interested. I like how it
Also,
looks.
and I know that this like Hangar image is pre-alpha, so I do not want to comment on this too much. But like when you comment on the UI, I agree with you. I don't think it looks great. I also don't think it looks awful. It's just kind of like whatever. It'll do. But in terms of like the stage ordering on stuff on the right, like, are we seriously like? I hope like Phelan will probably know more about this because he's probably kept it more in the development. But is KSP2 launching with the same mediocre, not good enough control over your stages and launch setup that KSP1 had? Because that was a big problem with KSP1 and building more advanced, cool, unique stuff without mods. Like, I think if they launch KSP2 with the same exact system, that's gonna suck.
I don't think they will. Looking at the bottom of the UI, it looks like you have like an area where you can change your change the settings of that in a bit more detail, maybe.
Yeah, I have to see.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I imagine it will be mostly the same. Like, what was the problem before? Sorry, did it?
So, like, it was just very like manual and limited in that it's like, oh, you want your boosters to fire, you put that into the slot, and then next one will be like take the joints and separate them. But there is more like cool stuff I think you could do with, say, what if you allow people to have some sort of like smart control over that? You have like a flight computer thing that they could program that is like burn these until they're at this level of solid fuel, and then giving people that level of control, I think would, again, it's like otherwise it's just KSP1 again. Like there needs to be a more advanced system.
Yeah.
Running things more in parallel on conditions, stuff like that like allows people to create more cool and unique objects, right? Like let's even think about like you've got like you could integrate similar stuff from like the flight computer in that sense into like your control surfaces, right? So again, like you have like some sort of dual purpose like plane, like both space and atmosphere or whatever, and you can have it like look at like air pressure or whatever, and like change the configuration and then the way your inputs are affecting the control surfaces based on what environment it's in. If they have that level of control, I think people will create really, really cool things like they did in KSP1. But if it's the same as KSP1, then like people have done that. They did that 10 years ago because it's KSP1. Like that's what I mean. I think it's cool and it's a cool project. It's just like I don't know if it's gonna be there.
I'm not. It's one of those things. I can't remember if they've mentioned. I'm sure they have at some point, but I'd very much like to see that as well. Hell yeah!
Yeah.
Fucking tool-assisted Kerbal speedruns in.
I'm interested because like when they add wait, are they adding like civilizations or whatnot into it?
Not that I'm aware of. No.
Okay, because like the interplanetary side, I wonder how they're gonna incorporate stuff when it comes to like building stuff. Like, could you build stuff on other planets and shit like that? I think that's part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's
like would you be able to do automated stuff for like resource management and taking stuff to planets and stuff like that? Like, I'll be interested to see if they do any side of like management on that on the game. We'll see in 2 or 3, 4 years. Yeah, no, well, there's a game we can look forward to somewhat. I think this is.
Does anyone remember what we were talking about before we got on this tangent?
Rockets.
Yeah, things that we're looking forward to.
Oh yeah, and then I mentioned rockets.
In the upcoming year. Yeah.
For the first
Oh
year
yeah,
in a while,
because you were talking about what we want to see in the upcoming year. I remember now.
Yes. Yeah.
God.
Because I'll quickly say this, and then we'll go on to something that me and Alfie were talking about the other day, but not in detail. So because we wanted to save it for the podcast. And I know for a fact Faden's going to love this conversation because he's really involved in this whole scene. Anyway, before I say that, this is the first year in a while that I won't be able to say I look forward to the new COD because there just won't be a new COD this year.
Thank God.
So
thank God.
And a new Battlefield. There's no new Battlefield this year, so that's a shame.
Good, they need to fix their current one. Like, that's...
They're trying.
Are they? Not from
yeah,
what I've
no.
heard.
I don't know. Anyway, an actual thing that I'd like to see this year would be AV1 support in streaming. And I mentioned this to Alfie mainly in the sense that I think it would be a good thing for Twitch to do, because then they'll have a leap forward when it comes to supporting it ahead of YouTube when it comes to streaming, at least. But there will be downsides to them if they did it. I feel like if they did it, they'll be like, oh, well, partners can only use it, and only certain partners can because they pay us X tax. So it would be cool, but I doubt it would happen, and I doubt it would be for everybody.
Yeah, I think that it would be cool if they
see.
release AV1 on Twitch. I think you still need to just generally acknowledge the criticisms of AV1, in that, like, no one can play back AV1 currently. There's like 6 people that can, right? Like, it's like certain phones, and then anyone with like AV1 support on their GPU, which is like only people on the very latest. Majority of people that are watching Twitch are on mobile, for one. Majority of people that are watching Twitch are on shitty laptops. A lot of people watch Twitch streams rather than playing games because they can't play them. Stuff like that, right? Like, it's really hard to get people to watch AV1 in the first place. But yeah, I don't think Twitch should spend the money. I just don't think they have, like, I definitely agree that if they did do it, it would be some sort of restricted thing, like it's partners only, or only people with transcoding support, or whatever. But even then, I think it might, like, I don't even know if they'll look at the numbers for their top like 50 partners, and if they'll even think it would like be cost effective to do it for just them. Like, I think it literally just wouldn't be particularly, like, in terms of the raw economics of it, I think it would be like probably a quite heavy loss, and I'm not sure that the C-suite in Twitch are the type of people to see the potential returns in terms of long-term support of the codec and the benefits it could bring in terms of quality and how that could improve user experience, which could lead to more people using the platform, which could lead to more subs. Because I frankly don't think they're in touch with the concept of what their platform is to that level, and haven't been for years. So I just don't think it would make sense to predict that they would ever like try to do something like that.
Well, I remember when we watched TwitchCon and the Twitch CEO or whatever he was came on screen, and we're like, yep, he definitely is out of touch with everything in life, let alone Twitch as a platform. So yeah, no, it's... Look, I think everybody should move to AMD, for starters. Fuck Intel.
Hell yeah.
And fuck Nvidia after last year. And make AV1 a standard. That's my stand on this topic.
Yeah, I want to get into it this year if I can. So I think hopefully it will become a bigger thing going forward.
What, AMD or AV1?
Both.
Okay.
I think the worst thing
Fucking
about
Intel, you've pissed me off enough.
Yeah, that's fair.
the worst thing I in my opinion about AV1 is that there's this problem with there's this weird modern thing that's happened as like video and media and photo codecs have like developed over the years. And like, this is mostly Google that was influencing this in the Open Media Consortium, also known as Google's Media Consortium, where AV1 is a decent codec for some metrics. If we are actually going to be like genuinely like let's be as fair, straight down the line, like positive and critical towards it, right? It does some fairly decent stuff in terms of compression and file size, which lets you transmit less data for the same quality, which means that platforms could maybe increase the amount of data to the same they're currently using on HEVC, and you'd get higher quality. Wow, isn't that good? Right, that's cool. Like, that's nice. But there's also other stuff that's like become a thing, right? How often recently in like over the past couple of years have you you're streaming and you're doing OBS or something, you want to put an image in OBS, and you Google an image and you open the app in the image in the tab and you go to save the image and put it in OBS. Oh, but it's a WebP, so you can't put it in OBS because WebP images can't go in OBS. Oh, well that sucks. stuff like that is becoming a big problem with things, and like the reason like file formats like WebP don't work so well on OBS is that like they're not really photo formats. Like they're all jank ass things, and like AVIF is becoming a big thing, right? The AV1 image format. And
right.
AVIF is just a singular frame of AV1 video. That's how all of these video codec file formats for photo work. AVIF is just, yeah, it's one frame. Oh, but AVIF can support GIFs, animated photos. Isn't that? Yeah, but it's just multiple frames of AV1 video. It's just an like this is the like, and it sucks because that's just stupid. And there's a huge push by the Alliance for Open Media to like literally like get AVIF to become a web standard. And by that I mean Google, who has like 80% of the browser market share through Chromium, is just going, oh, that new JPEG format that's come out that's like really, really good and like backwards compatible and just super, it's just a major improvement. We're not going to support that in Chromium. We're only going to support AVIF and WebP. Oh, no, we're fully for open media, guys. We love the internet. We love the web development community. We're a huge fan of open media. But I mean, we're not going to support that clearly superior competing. No. For no reason. I mean, yeah, we make AV1, but no. It's like, and it's just, it's a horrible, like, fucking push that's happening in the tech space where we're ending up with this like weird fucked shit where like there is just a better format to use. Like AVIF is just not a particularly good format. I don't want to see AVIF images become the standard on the web, but like they probably are going to become the standard, and
Mm.
it just sucks because like one of the key problems of AV1, and like this is the thing, is that for all of the good shit that AV1 does, it's a very high overhead codec. It is hard to encode and decode. That is why, unlike with other codecs in the past, it has dedicated accelerators on modern graphics cards and phones. Right? JPEG XL, the alternative I was talking about, is about the same speed as JPEG. Doesn't need dedicated accelerators. And it can achieve comparable compression and quality for images. Like, obviously, it's different for like video, although there are again better video formats. But so, like, as much as I am excited about AV1 because it does factually increase the quality of streams for the same amount of data, right? So you could be looking at an 8,000 kilobits per second stream on Twitch, and it will look better on AV1 in theory, provided the game's going to be benefited by compression and numerous other things. But like in terms of pure data, it is in theory. There's other stuff that's going on with it, with AVIF especially, that just like it's just sad because it's just like it's shit. It's just shit format. But Google's like, no, we want control over not just the web and not just web standards. Where when these major internet companies and web development companies make web standards that we're meant to follow, and we just change them in Chrome, and then everyone else has to just change them because everyone uses Chrome, so we can just do what we want. They're just doing that shit, but now with codecs and media formats and file types, and that sucks as well because it's just like, fuck off, you cunts. I
Yeah.
ranted for that about way too long, but I'm a web developer. Sorry.
Well, that's
True.
something to look forward to in the new year.
True.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you watched CES. I know I managed to catch a couple of panels and a bit of news afterwards. An annoying amount of laptops was like announced. I
Yes.
don't care.
That's literally all I've seen on LTT is laptop after laptop after. Hey, look,
God,
there's a screen.
They've done like 3 or 4 videos, I think, now on
Yeah.
just like different companies' laptops.
They're
And
all the same.
They're all just high-end gaming laptops that cost like $2,000 upwards. Fuck it, I don't care. But OLED is becoming a lot more prevalent in. I was going to say larger screens, referencing the fact we were talking about laptops, but primarily smaller screens. Actually, we're getting a lot of. I think it's 27, 32-inch, maybe a few 24-inch OLEDs.
Yeah.
But oh man, you can really see a watch though. I don't know. I'm just hoping. So I know Samsung have announced more QD OLED sizes.
Mm.
So that's with their quantum dot layer on. But I think they've only gone up. They've gone up to like 77-inch or something. I want them to go down. I want a 42-inch QD OLED. That's what I'm hoping for this year. Then
Yeah.
again, if it's Samsung, they'll probably put some ridiculous curve on it.
That's the,
Dunno,
like,
we'll see.
so, and I'm glad I didn't think he isn't here. If he isn't here to hear this, because he hates both of us for this now. They do. They genuinely despise us for this. But like, I really want to get a 32 or bigger inch monitor after upgrading to a 27-inch monitor. As an editor, I feel like that's justified. But also, there's a few games I just want to play on it that I would find benefits in. But looking at them, the amount, the bigger you get, it seems the more they want to curve it, which is kind of annoying.
Yeah.
I can understand, but at the same time, I don't want that. Again,
Yeah, there's a
going from
place
an
for it.
yeah, like there's a place like this, it's games I can understand. But like coming from an editing point of view, it's like I don't want that because I just don't see a benefit in it when it comes to editing. But like they get expensive quickly. It would genuinely surprise me how expensive 42-inch monitors got, especially. But might as well just buy a 50-inch TV. They're cheaper.
True.
So yeah, no, that was we'll see. That's something to look forward to in the new year. New monitor, maybe. You two are upgrading your PCs,
I mean, new
aren't you?
computer, hopefully, yeah.
You're thinking of what are you thinking of upgrading to?
Oh, who you targeting first?
I was going to say the one who isn't muted, but they've unmuted now.
I literally just sat back down in time to hear that question. so
God
good
damn,
timing.
everyone's going AFK. Right, I'm gonna pop off for 20 minutes. I'll come back in a bit.
Yeah, you bloody did
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah, me first, me.
Yeah. Delicious. What PC are you upgrading
you.
to next?
Well, I'm looking forward to the Ryzen part. See, another thing I'm looking forward to. The new Ryzen CPUs launching next month, hopefully, that's what they've claimed. They're going to have their 3D V-cache. And if they get good enough performance uplift in games, then I'll certainly consider them. Especially, lower power draw, that's always nice. But again, it will literally come down to reviews, as it does with any of these. Graphics card, I want to go AMD, because I just don't want to go with NVIDIA anymore. But if I kind of want to move up to 4K gaming, so it's going to
You're
be
wrong.
tough. Yeah, I know you're going to say that.
I'm glad you. I'm surprised you didn't say anything about the 3D CPUs, but
Yeah,
Phelan has a very specific interest in
I have something in mind, which is
in
good for me.
gaming.
'Cause
He
normally-
wants
yes,
gaming
yeah.
and he wants gaming performance,
4K
and he's
Oblivion.
willing to sacrifice a worse version of the architecture and a
Yeah.
potentially worse performance, and by potentially I mean definitely worse performance in numerous other use cases. But to
Yes,
be fair,
absolutely.
he probably isn't going to use those use cases, so I don't particularly
Yeah, I
push
mean, I'll
back on
probably
that point.
dabble, with like different bits, but it definitely is gaming is my main focus, and it's a really awkward position to be in, just because the XTX card is great, but it's not quite strong enough yet. But it very well could be. AMD have been very good with their drivers in the past, or it also could not be. They could just like not touch it that much, which is always a risk.
I'll let you know.
Thanks. Nvidia though, the pricing, the physical size, the power consumption, there's a lot to not like about Nvidia.
Jensen mainly,
The
I
whole-
tend to personally think.
The whole 40 series has been a shambles, unfortunately. Not only with the 4090 blowing up in people's faces, and the silly prices, but them just completely getting rid of the 12 gig 4080, and rebranding it as the 4070 Ti or whatever they called it. I can't remember.
Yep. Yeah, it was
Um,
the TI.
TI?
Ty, yeah. Is it Jensen that says Ty?
No, I hope he's stopped. Honestly, I don't think he's.
I hope
don't-
Jensen is fired, is what I hope.
I
fucking
don't
hate
understand.
him.
Who let him say Ty?
Well, they
Uh,
changed pronunciation
They
regularly
did
between different
try to.
things.
Oh.
Yeah,
the
and like
community
they
was not
joked
having
about
it.
that in their CES presentation this
They
year,
did.
Oh, did they?
where yeah,
Mm.
they were comparing the 3090 Ti to the 4090, 4080. Or so, there's something. Well, they were doing whatever
something
comparison.
like that,
They
yeah.
and one of them they said Ti, and one of them they said Ti as like a
Ah.
deliberate joke, and it's just like
They realise they're not funny. right?
okay, this card sucks though. So
True. But yeah, that new screen I was talking about, I would like a bigger one. 32 inches, just not enough for me anymore.
I'll take you 32-inch off you.
All right, I've got 2 of them. Which one do you want?
The better one.
Basically you have the option of 4K 60 or 1440 144.
I'll go for the 44.
Yeah, I thought you might.
I'm on the presence of I don't see. When it comes to PC gaming with monitors, I don't see the benefit of going 4K.
Thank you.
Damn.
I only see it when it comes to the media. When it comes to
literally
you.
see
when it comes to
You
theatre.
are the smartest person on this podcast.
I know, I respect that, Phelan, because I genuinely moving up to okay, look, this is a weird thing, but it makes sense if you understand from my perspective. Moving from 1080 to 1440p was really beneficial for me.
Yep.
Not only did I go to a 27-inch monitor, but going to a high resolution meant I could fit more on the screen. Okay, how do I describe this? Everything was smaller because there was a high resolution in my editing program that I could see more, if that made sense. It's weird to describe
That's
it, but
how resolution works.
yes. And so, but I don't see the benefit of going up to 4K for that reason, and I physically can't see the pixels at 1440p. I would be more than surprised. I'd be worried at how close you are to the monitor if you could.
Yeah, I guess having a 32-inch, it's definitely given me a lower pixels per inch.
But I would say 4K or above is only beneficial when it comes to like a theatre room or like watching films and TV. For media.
My small interjection as passionate individual when it comes to 4K and gaming, that I want to interject here is that 4K doesn't have like no benefit to gaming on a smaller style standard monitor. It's just that the benefit it provides you is so limited and not significant enough to outweigh the just waste of performance, right? You could get, like, in my opinion, if you're looking at fancy, very visually pretty game on a 4K monitor, and because it's a very visually pretty game with very quite high demands on a GPU, right? You're running it on a 4K monitor. The frame rate you're getting at that, I still personally think the loss of frame rate and other things, especially for people that aren't on top end GPUs, the people that are on like second GPUs, second from top end, but they might have to turn a couple settings down in terms of the visual fidelity of the graphics to get that 4K experience to be smooth. You were just better off on 1440p. Just run at 1440p, get the better frames. You can crank everything to on the near like top 50% of top tier graphic cards at this point. You can just crank everything to max, and you'll get a perfectly serviceable frame rate that'll be, if you're on the very top end of that top 50%, again, you're looking at the top 2 or 3 cards. You're, above refresh rate for most monitors in many games, like by a comfortable margin. That's where I think the sweet spot is. Like, I don't think there's much benefit to like the resolution aspect in all but like a couple aspects of gaming. It's just not a worth trade off.
My main concern, if I was to go absolute top tier graphics card, my main concern with 4K is just like the 1% and the 0.1% lows. Other than that, I think even in like the intensive games, exclude perhaps like Microsoft Flight Sim, I think you get 80. But again, if that's if you literally crank everything. So there is room to turn bits down, but for the most part, I would be hitting that 144.
But that's it. Why would I want to play Microsoft? Sorry, I'm eating. Why would I want to play Microsoft Flight Sim at 80 with everything cranked? Okay, well that's I'm dropping below refresh rate, so I want to push it up. So turn some settings down. I think, and my argument is that the experience will be better playing that game at 1440p and having it cranked than it would be at 4K. I don't think the quality of the more pixels you get from 4K is better than the quality you get from being able to run very smoothly at very low latency with a high refresh rate of 1440p with the full graphics cranked. If that makes sense, that's my argument in its principle.
I would
in most
absolutely
games.
agree to a point. I'd say it's weird because Microsoft Flight Sim is definitely one of the harder games to argue that for, I think.
Okay.
But I do play shooters, like, let's acknowledge that. So that would be, a fairly big part of my time. Even like War Thunder, I would consider as being a lot more active of a game with like reaction times mattering than Flight Sim, perhaps.
So,
but especially if I do want a bigger monitor, and I'm at the point where pixels per inch is fine, and I wouldn't want to drop it though. So like Going up to
Yeah.
a bigger monitor, I'd need to go 4K to keep that. Otherwise, it would look blurry or just low resolution.
Coming from a person that's between you both,
Mm.
I would say a game like Flight Sim, I would rather play on a big monitor at 4K
Hmm.
because it's a game that's slow and you're taking in the details. However, if I'm playing something like Call of Duty, I would rather than go down to 1440p and higher settings
Right, yeah.
because I'm not there to enjoy the graphics. Maybe if I'm playing the campaign, but apart from that, I'm literally just there to play and have fun. If I can play it at max settings at 1440p, I will. I'm not going to go up to 4K and take some of those lose performance, or even take some graphic settings down, because I wouldn't see the benefit of running it at 4K. But again, I'm not coming from a person who's used a 32-inch or even bigger monitor at 1440p, so I wouldn't understand what that would look like, and would the benefit going to 4K actually make that much of a difference visually looking at it. A question I have for you then, Phelan, and I'm curious what you would say on this, is would you rather go for a 42-inch 4K monitor
Hmm.
or 32-inch 1440p monitor, but it's like, I haven't done any research on this, so I wouldn't know, but it's like it's the best technology that monitor can provide, so like QLED or
Got
whatever,
down.
like the best, the best possible screen or panel, sorry, it could be. Let's say they cost the same.
God damn. I'm at the point where I honestly wouldn't buy either of those, is the problem. Like, that's exactly where I'm at with my setup. Like, my CPU sucks, right?
Does it?
It's just, well, yeah, because of a mixture of both Intel and Windows. I'm just sick of it. It's almost, I say almost always, it's at 100% usage too often, you know.
You also have an issue
It's
with your
I mean,
not got
like,
many
to
cores
summarize,
to
drive.
raise.
we have the same CPU. I am currently in a Discord call. I have Firefox running. I have all of the background stuff that I need running for like my keyboard RGB software, my GoXLR, my Stream Deck. I have OBS running and VideoTuber for the shit going on, and my CPU is at about 80% occasionally, and like 80 to 90. It's like, how?
Yeah.
You know, I'm doing nothing, and that sucks. It sucks. It's just CPU. Fuck it.
Absolutely. And I'm also like in a similar place with, I think it's more apt to compare my storage, where I'm still using hard drives, admittedly at 7200 RPM. So, like, pretty much the fast hard drives, like, minus the ridiculous 15,000 ones that last for like 2 years, but you can get, and are only a terabyte in size. So that is starting to hold me back, and I've noticed that, especially when RAID decides to break and then it has to resync the entire drive, which takes God knows how many hours every single time. And that's what's like ruining my performance. You'll have noticed that, Charles, where I say, oh, my drive's at 100%
So is that
usage.
what it is? Is it RAID?
It's, yeah.
Okay.
Well, kind of. As far as I'm aware, it's RAID breaking, or, well, it's Windows RAID break. Let's
Yeah.
be fair. This is using Windows disk management software, which is
I wasn't aware you
kind of
used them in
annoying.
RAID. I know you'd mentioned it a couple
Yeah.
times, but I wasn't like
Oh,
aware that was like an active thing.
The only idea being that because I am running so much storage, especially on a mechanical drive which is many years old, if I forgot what I was gonna say now. I need to change the system right now.
You
I'm
need a
using a
new
terrible
drive.
version of RAID. Yeah. So it's sort of as a backup so that if one goes I can quickly move everything over
Mhm.
without having to
Quickly.
buy a whole new drive and wait for that to arrive. And SSDs have come up at a decent price, but a lot of them have been SATA, which just I'm aiming for the top tier, which is the problem now with this entire upgrade I want to do. And if even like the M2 drives that have been cheap, the NVMe M2 ones, or PCIe, sorry, I just don't have the slots for that. So I need to do a complete rebuild, starting from the ground up, which is exactly the same position as those monitors. It's like asking me, would I rather have like this PCIe drive with, I don't know, like QLC memory. Like it's got something not wrong with it, but not ideal, or a SATA drive with everything right with it. I was like, well, neither. Unfortunately, I'm at a point where I've got to wait and hope that someone wants to buy this computer. But I've got a few months anyway to worry about that and save up money.
Yeah,
So
that's fair.
hopefully by the end of this year, something nice and new.
Oh, I'm just glad that everything's like. I remember back in like this is going back 2 years ago. I was the one with the worst PC consistently. And now I'd
Now
argue
Caden's got the best.
I would argue mine's better than Caden's now.
I don't know. So what CPU are you again?
I'm using a Ryzen 9 5900X.
That's pretty good for your use case. And your GPU, I know you keep changing me. You changed them like you changed your style. That's
Yeah, I
why
know. It's the RX 7900 XT.
It's the XE. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you're probably are better than Caden at this point.
What's Caden running again? My voice.
Caden's running I want to say it's a 3070.
Yeah, no,
I'll double check that.
Mine's definitely better than his then.
And a 5800 3D variant.
Oh, why would you give them the 3D variant?
Game cares about gaming. Thank God.
The only games
Pretty
Caden
good.
plays are card games.
Yeah, and idle games don't.
Yeah,
I know.
I love
I'm-
that 5800X 3D chip that like I checked the other day and was £100 more than the non 3D version. Such good
Oh, God,
value.
yeah,
for that.
like-
I mean, I'm joking. Like that was just an anomaly, but
Oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely. But I'm thankfully I'm decent at finding.
I
good
also want to
Well-
defend myself a little bit. You
Uh-oh.
referenced my also famous hater of 3D Vcache persona earlier, around Phelan.
Did
I do want to, or like it was hinted at, yeah.
Yeah,
I do
it was
want to
definitely there.
to sort of like just clarify that like obviously things are very situational and it depends on people's use case and stuff, but another benefit I think of the 7000 series with 3D Vcache is that they are just better chips. I like the 5800X 3D was a cool chip for it being a big new and a new technology and a new exciting thing that clearly demonstrated benefit. But like I think there was a lot just worse with it just as a CPU in general. I just don't think the 58X100 blah, 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 was as good as some of the 7000 chips are for certain circumstances. Like on a 5800X 3D, your multi-threaded performance in non-gaming, right, was like obviously not as good as it would be on the non-3D chip, but also just like not as good as CPUs can do now. Whereas like yeah, I think you'd be sacrificing a lot of performance in terms of your multi-threaded capability on a 7800X 3D or 7950X 3D or whatever. But at the same time, I think that they're still like so much faster anyway. And they've got decent performance and like the efficiency because they're run at the lower TDP, quote unquote TDP. That like
Yes.
you've got some pretty good chips on your hands in terms of your power efficiency and in terms of your like performance, regardless. Even though for like my sort of use case that I'd be going for, they would suck.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And what about you then, Alfie? By the way, upgrades. What like because we're both saying we were saying that both of you were going to go for upgrades. Hopefully this year. What would yours be?
In the way that we've just had a whole discussion, we've heard the point of view of I really want to go to the top end, but top end isn't what I need, so I have to wait a little bit. From the other side, my side is that like I'm going to like more than the top end. I think in some ways.
What?
I have a very specific desire for a use case. I want to do an Umraid build, so I want to run a piece of software called Umraid, and it will allow me to do many things. But the key main thing is that it will allow me to run simultaneously a series of virtual machines. So I can run Windows and I can run a couple of Linux distros, and I can put some stuff in the background, some servers, some stuff like Pi-hole I can stick on there, stuff like that, right? And I can run all these things off the CPU, and there is a performance hit to running Windows in a virtual machine, but it's like fairly small that I'm not like bothered by it. I mean, like it is like very minimal. And to do that, I need a lot of multi-core performance. I'm not looking for the best single-threaded or the best burst performance. I'm looking for a lot of cores because I need to spread, if you're looking at your Windows PC right now and it's got 12 cores and it performs well, if I'm running in this, immediately 2 of those cores have got to go to MRAID. So now I'm on a 10 core, right? And then if I've got 2 other operating systems, now I'm on a 4 core, right? Like, that's the problem I'm looking at. And so I've got to get something with a high enough core count to facilitate for that, but still good enough performance, still something that's at the top end of the market so it can still push fairly high clocks. For the use of, because I do still do gaming, and gaming obviously is benefited quite heavily by clocks. Like, depending on what multi-core workload you're using, it's not as relevant. But so I'm kind of limited. So I look at top end Intel, and everything there's got these E and P cores, which I like to refer to as these are fine. Remove these from your CPU architecture cores. And like if I use that, well, I've got a problem because I'm buying a 16-core CPU, but it's actually an 8-core CPU. And Intel have just lied to me about the CPU that I've bought, basically. And sure, if I'm using a normal, traditional use case, those E-cores, well, they can burst. They can get those tasks out of the way. They can get my word processing going nice and nippy, which is great. And the architecture's fine for that. But it's shit for what I want, right? Well, okay, let's look at Intel's server offer. Okay, that's 16 grand. No. So, we go to AMD. And again, we could look at their server offerings again. Oh, that's 32 grand. No, I can't afford that. Well, they've got Threadripper. Oh, they just had a new version of Threadripper come consumer. It's been out for a long while before that. Okay. Oh, but that's like 3 to 3.6 grand for some of those chips, and they do perform very well. But I ain't spending 3.5 grand on a fucking CPU. I mean, Christ. So I basically am left with one singular CPU option, and that is the 7950X. Not the 3D version, because I need to get every ounce of performance out of it. I don't want a CCD that's limited in clock or anything like that. Like, no interest. I want just every ounce of performance. I don't care about the benefit from the cache. But it is problematic because it's just fucking expensive. It's an expensive CPU. It's an expensive platform. I need to get new RAM for DDR5. I need to get new storage if I upgrade. I need to do all of that stuff. A new case, So, like, what was me being like, I'm going to buy this $700 CPU, and then the CPU came down in price to more like $570, and it's gone up again a bit recently with the stuff, but it's like, that was good value. And now I'm like, well, yeah, and I've got to buy a motherboard. Well, for the Unraid, again, like, I need to be able to have separate network ports for both of those, different things, for operating systems, well, I don't need, but I would like to be able to have. Oh, well, that means I need to get a motherboard with multiple expansion slots so I can put a network up. Well, maybe I could have an onboard, LAN. Maybe there's 2 onboard LAN. Okay, so I found a motherboard with 2 onboard LAN. It costs £900. Shit. Okay, well, I'm going to need a fair amount of RAM, though, because some of that RAM's got to go to Unraid, and some of that RAM's got to go to Windows, and some of that RAM's got to go to the other. Well, so now I'm looking at 64 or more gigs of RAM and DDR5 and it is a Ryzen chip, so it's going to benefit from having some good syncing with the Infinity Fabric. So I'm looking at a 6400 kit now. It's just looking like it's just going to be. I'm buying a brand new PC from scratch, basically. It's not an upgrade. It sucks, and it's going to be thousands of pounds, and it's help me.
We're gonna have a fun few months.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fair. It's an expensive hobby, building PCs.
It is.
It's a fun one, but it's expensive. And who knows? You might have your PC next year. Phelan might have his PC next year. I might even upgrade again next year. With a new GPU.
Will.
If I was to, I would go to the 7000 series chipset. CPU chipset, just because I'm curious what the actual benefit to their shared encoding is, because I haven't actually seen any testing on that yet. At least
I don't think it's released yet.
That might be why then. So I'd be curious to see that. But like that again, it's a very expensive. Like if I was to do that, I would go for the same chip as you, the Ryzen 9 7900X. And then I would need to get more RAM or more. Yeah, I don't want to get rid of the RAM I got though, because you guys bought it for me, and it's cool RAM.
You get rid of it. It's your bloody RAM.
Do you want any RAM, Phelan, by any chance?
Yeah, actually, I think. Oh God, that's a good point. I'm potentially building a cheap PC soon.
Oh God damn it! You're not taking that RAM as well. I won't even have by the time. I won't have that money by that time.
Yes.
That CPU's over there. The 7.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, like if I could, I would, but like I would need a new motherboard, same as you. I wouldn't need a
Mm.
silly expensive motherboard as long as it's got enough USBs on it. I don't care. Um, and then more
Oh, yeah.
RAM and then the CPU itself. So I'm looking at like £1,000 just for the fucking whole thing again, like to upgrade. Look, if my self-employment goes, I'll do it. But we'll have to wait and see, won't we? We might have them. And talking about next year, where do you think we'll be? Where do you think you'll be? And yeah, where do you think this podcast might be in exactly a year's time?
Well, I think we'll have uploaded 2 more episodes.
Yeah, I was gonna
That'll be
say
nice.
this podcast will be on a 3-month break in 2 years' time.
2 years' time.
Yeah, shit. Well, you know, I'm
Looking
just
really
I'm future
into the
proofing.
future. This is
I'm
good.
future
Yeah.
proofing, you know.
Fair. I think we might make at least 2 episodes
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
looking
this
forward to
year.
this. I think we'll
1.5
we'll smash
maybe.
it.
I was thinking actually when I was eating my dinner, I can't wait for the day where we're recording podcasts in real life and I just order a takeaway on the podcast and eat it midway
Yeah.
through. I know for a fact I'm gonna do that.
As long as you order some for me, fine. But
I can't wait, and this is actually I can't say that because
oh,
that's
and you don't
depressing as
amputate
fuck.
us. You really, yeah. Make sure.
If
it's
I
like
get to a pit situation where that
undistinct-
happens, I'm gonna be worried.
well, as long as it doesn't say like Jackie's Pizza on it or
That'd be
something, like
brilliant.
we're fine.
If I can't wait for the day where I could just buy a takeaway and not worry about money. But no, that's okay, fair. Do you have any idea where you might be in exactly a year? So, if we were to look back on this, what do you want to tell your future self?
You better have got that new job, you stupid prick.
Was that to Ralphie?
Yeah, and to me.
You better have got that job, you
It
stupid
goes for all
prick.
of
To
us.
you.
Yeah.
You should have got that job, you stupid prick. There you go. That's to
Hell
all of
yeah.
our future self. We'll review
Yeah.
this in a year's time and see
I
where
mean,
that
if
goes.
we just start a company, right? Like we can technically achieve that.
Yeah? Are we talking
So-
about, does it have to be a successful company?
Oh no! We just have to like be employed elsewhere. Is what I'm.
Okay.
Mm.
I'll make the Clip It brand official.
Hell yeah.
And employ you for a minimum wage of 2p an hour.
Woo.
Yeah, okay. No, fair. Genuinely nothing else you want to say about next year? Or what you think?
It's very hard to predict.
This
Nah.
is a job interview. God,
Yeah,
I'm
I
starting
don't really know, like, you know, like some of the stuff at the goals they said, like I'd like to have achieved some of the goals they said at the start, but that's obviously like fairly obvious.
Nah.
Their goals, like I don't know, I'd like more financial independence and
mate.
freedom, but like again,
Mm.
that's just very generic. Like there's nothing,
There's nothing
I don't
generic
really
about that.
know. It's hard to say sort of specifically, really.
Well, that's fair. Look, we'll look back
Yeah.
on it and be like, wow, those pricks, they were
I
way
did
wrong.
not realise that I'd be the bloody president of
Yeah.
JP Morgan.
True.
Okay. Didn't expect that company to come up.
That was just-
Just
Yeah,
the
very
most
specific, I
random,
like
yeah, just not expecting it. Fair? No, okay. Yeah, I can't wait to see you in a year's time, Charlie, with that new self-employment money of nothing.
Hell yeah.
I'm going to edit this podcast slightly differently as well, to
Oh,
try
wow.
and hit the YouTube algorithm a little bit better. We'll see how it goes. Look,
How much have I sworn?
not much, but I have actually just been told today that I should edit all the swearing out of the clients' videos.
No.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't blame him.
Yeah.
It sucks, but I don't blame him.
So, the
Yeah,
thing is, I
too
spoke
much
to them
effort.
about this. I can't say that because I subtitle these. I genuinely was like, I wish I didn't start subtitling because it's not needed. I spoke to them literally months ago, like, hey, do you want me to edit out the swear words? And they didn't really give me an answer to that. Because I thought, oh, bleeping out, it's better to be safe than sorry. YouTube is kind of going to that point where God knows what they'll monetize you for these days. But I've been told to like just bleep it all out, and there's no swearing in the first 15 seconds at all. So there you go. Any future editors, just no swearing in the first 15 seconds, you'll be fine. Yeah, that's ideal. Right, is there any last things you wanted to talk about?
No, I'm good.
Hotspur versus Arsenal.
That was a good game. Arsenal going to win the league. I'm going to look back on this and go like, wow, why did I say that? Uh,
I know fuck all. I just know what's happening. What happened?
I think
don't
it
know.
happened. Yeah, I think it happened about an hour ago. Half an hour ago. Sorry. Yeah, Arsenal win the league easily. Man United second, City third.
There is one thing I will
Chelsea
mention.
fourth. Fuck it, why not?
So there was something I wanted to talk to you both about before we started recording, but I forgot because of the delay between like when we kind of maybe were, but then like so it was out of my memory. I wrote it down so I'd remember to talk about it.
Oh, that's
I'm not going to
important
talk
then.
about it on this podcast
Yeah.
because I don't want to give the idea away. I don't want to reveal secrets. It's a trade secret. It's an important new Clip It series that may potentially be coming. Right. What I will say is that I'm super excited about it, and it's the first
Ooh.
idea I've had where it's something I've wanted to do for a long time, but it's the first tangible variant of a thought. You know when you want to
Okay.
do something, but you don't have like an actual way of doing it
Yeah.
as an idea? I've now got the actual way of doing it, and I'm super excited. So I
Nice.
want to discuss that with you later.
Oh,
For
decent.
like 5 minutes.
Also, I have
look
something
forward.
to say. Both of you need to download World of Warships. And I'll explain that after the podcast.
What if I already have? Do I need to uninstall and reinstall,
Yes.
or what's the? Okay.
it's
I mean,
part of
I can have a good idea why you might be talking about
the-
that.
Anyway, yes, this is being the Clip It podcast episode
Love the
number. I
USS
can't remember.
Wyoming.
You know, it's award-winning World of Warships.
Yes. Wow.
It's a multiplayer game. It's crazy.
Really?
Hmm.
I might have to interject something here just in case.
Hmm.
Anyway, yeah, this has been an absolute awesome. It's good to be back. I'm going to try it at least once a month. We'll try and stick to our schedule of every 2 weeks, but every fortnight. But at least once a month is my aim. I'm going to try and fix my setup so it doesn't have this weird audio static sounds that I can hear on my microphone. That's annoying. God knows if you guys can pick it up. I doubt it. Not you two. I mean the. What did you put? But the podcast. And yeah, no, this has been a fantastic episode. As always, have a good evening, good day, good night, or good morning, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Ta-ra.
Bye.
That was just rude.